Alright, what's up guys, it's Zero here, and today I'm here with my first impressions for G Set 2. So G Set 2 gave us Neonectar, Aquaforce, and Bermuda. Honestly, just a first off fresh impression. I don't think either of the clans are particularly that good. But without further ado, we'll get on with it. We'll start with Neonectar just because it's probably what people care about the most. So I'll go over relevant cards, cards I think are relevant, and then my overall thoughts on the clan, and then overall thoughts on the set. So yeah, a little more in depth than just I don't think everything's good, but yeah. First off, the generic cards every clan got: Stride Fodder, countercharging PGs. The Pier is pretty good. It lets you gets power. It gives things the ability power. Let me just pull up the exact wording on these cards. I actually do not remember, just because the wording on these cards are a little more whack than usual. Just give me 1 second. So the Pier skill is a GB1. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 Asha, or Ranunculus, I guess it'd be Asha. You return a card without triggers from your drop zone to your deck, so you put back a non-trigger. This looks pretty bad as cost, but honestly, this cost is really good because this deck does a lot of calling of cards that are of the same name, and usually you're not calling triggers, right? So it lets you recycle names, which is actually really useful. So this cost is not actually not a cost; it's a benefit for the deck. And you choose on your rears and give all your units with the same name as that card 3k power. So you give stuff, make stuff pretty big, which is pretty nice. That's it for the relevant grade 1s, grade 2s. Let me just sort by G cards, so I don't have to look at any of the old cards. Grade 2s we got the Wheelwind Dragon, GB1 on hit countercharge 2. Obviously, no need for explanations there. On hit CC2 is pretty nice. This actually doesn't burn Camelot that much though, so there's a limit to how nice it is in this deck. But I'm sure down the line this card will be really good, just because countercharge 2 is never a bad thing, right? Next up we have the Maiden Gladiolus. Her skill is GB1. When this unit attacks the Vanguard, if it's boosted, CB1, and you call a card from your deck with the same name as one of your other rears. So here's her multi-attack. Here's the thing that requires you to call same name stuff. So yeah. Really good card. This card's definitely really good for this deck. And then just something else I find very noteworthy is the Maiden of Flower Screens. Her skill is cost. Once return cost GB1, you return a card with the same name, a non-trigger unit from drop zone to your deck, and you make this card the same name as something else on your board. So this acts as like a pseudo extra names for your other cards, which I think is actually pretty needed for the deck, because otherwise you might just run out, or you damage check and draw too many copies of the card you do have on the board and you can't dupe them anymore. So I think this card's actually pretty nice, just adds an extra name to the deck. Add extra copies of cards to your deck, essentially, for skill purpose wise. So yeah. And then grade 3, we have Asha herself. So this is a rank 4 art, though. But her skill is GB2. During your return, this unit gets 5k, and all your rear guards the same name as your other unit get 5k, so pretty relevant skill. On stride skills, Homogeneous Stride, CP1, call a card from your hand, and then call a card from your deck with the same name as that card, and plus 2k. So it is a +1, which is pretty nice. +1, and since you get to call a card first, you can dupe the card you called, so you don't have to have the card on the board beforehand, which is definitely a really nice buff to the card, because otherwise your back row just gets killed, and then you have nothing to dupe, and this skill is basically useless. And then on call plus 2k, or on ride plus 3k, which is cool, I guess. This card's okay too, but I don't really see a reason to go for this. This is basically just a Gladiolus, except you can't call herself. So yeah, CB1 and it's also on hit, so it's a little worse than that. So on hit, CB1 call a dupe rear except for itself. So yeah. It's kind of whatever. They got the Strider crits, whatever. They got heal cards, whatever. And then for the strides, all three are actually pretty good. First off is the Arbora. So on stride, and then on hit, you call a card the same name as your other rear guard from deck, and it gets 2k. So simple on hit multi attack. You need dupe, so you need to dupe for that. So it's kind of awkward, but yeah, that's the entire deck's gimmick. So and you have ways to get cards back in your deck, so it's okay. Not the worst, not the best. It's definitely a very playable. It's definitely your go-to first stride, because the Primavera, although not being GB2, you don't really want to go into it first. You almost always want to go into the Ouroboros first. Speaking of Primavera, her skill is when this unit attacks the Vanguard CB2, you put 5 cards with 5 non-triggers back to your deck, and then you call up to 2 cards each with the same name as your rear guards. So you call a total of 4 cards from your deck with this. So what you end up doing is you attack, you put 5 back at first cost, you choose 2 cards, and then you can call usually you select like a grade 1 and a grade 2. So you recall 2 columns. But because this card doesn't get powered to any of those cards, this basically is only good for finisher at 5 because it's at 4 and they hit defensive, and you hit no triggers. Those lanes are not scaling properly. So your primary finisher, pretty good card. And then finally we have the Jingle Flower Dragon. So his skill is GB2, Persona Flip. This is a triple rare though, because Persona flipping GRs are very expensive. You need at least 2 of those for the one. So very nice to start the triple rare. And then you give one of your rear guards that fall in building until end of next turn. All of your units get plus 2k for each of your units with the same name as this unit. So let's just say you have like a back row of like 3 Piers, for example. Just say like 3 of the same back row unit. You just do the same back row units. You give the skill to that card, and then that card now has the skill. Everything gets 2k per Pier you have on the board. So if you have 3 Piers in the back, you'd be giving your board plus 6k power, which is pretty nice. And since it's until end of your opponent's next turn, your intercepts are actually really big, which might matter in some matchups, but for the most part, your opponent can just retire them, bot deck them, all that good stuff. So yeah. But this card's actually pretty good. This card's actually not bad. This card is surprisingly not that bad. So yeah. That's it for Neonectar. Overall, I think this deck is playable. It's playable. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. It has everything it needs to be a playable deck, but I don't think it's particularly amazing. Just because it's just that your cards just aren't that good overall. I think like you have multi attacks and that stuff. You can have like big chunky intercepts, but the deck can't retire, which is a really big downside. Which I do think deck and Zero need to be able to retire to some degree to be really good. But because they can't retire, your multi attacks are okay, but they don't scale. They don't scale the best. And this deck is also very prone to getting their stuff retired. So I think those are some issues that the deck has. But overall, it's very playable. I do think the best thing about the deck is that one run through a box plus crafts is actually enough for the deck to function. Like as you can see, I only have 1 of each GR stride, but like I play the deck a bit, and the deck is actually perfectly playable with only one copy of each GR. Obviously, you'd want 2 of each, but 2 of each is 1 of each is actually very workable with. So yeah, that's it for Neonectar. Next up, we'll go over Aquaforce. I personally have not gotten to play this deck at all, just because I don't own most of the cards, but we'll go over it anyways. Grade 1s, your usual stuff, PG, Dried Fodder. Grade 1s are all like okay, they're all cool tech and stuff, but nothing too noticeable. Grade 2s, I'd say the most noticeable card here is the Magnum Assault. So his skill is GB1 once per turn, and this unit attacks a Vanguard. At the end of the battle, this unit attack the Vanguard. If it is boosted, CB1 to stand and give 2k power. So it's a way to get your fourth attack. It's a way to extend your attacks later on when your points at 5 with something like a Thavas Lambros. Regardless, it was really nice. It stores multiple uses for the deck, and plus 2k makes it so you can actually hit with like a trigger or something, or with Lambros' 5k power. So definitely a very good card, and a card I definitely see you playing at 4 in the deck at the moment. Nothing else here too relevant. And then onwards to grade 3s. We have Mr. Thavas himself. So his skill is GB2. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, it's the 4th battle of that turn or more. It gets a crit, and your punishment guard is grade 0. So grade 0 strict. And then his other skills, your stride bonus skill is you give the unit that strided the ability that if it is exactly the 4th battle of that turn, you choose 3 of your opponent's rears, and then you retire 1 at random. It's a really roundabout way of saying retire 1 card retire 1 back row at random, pretty much, because opponent probably has double intercept. Rarely ever will you actually have to choose. Usually it's just like you swing and then you retire 1 at random. So yeah, from the back row. So it's okay, I guess. It's okay. I honestly don't think this card's that good, to be honest. My theory craft list only plays cards I one of. I personally just don't think Thavas is that amazing, to be perfectly honest, just because the GB2 skill is kind of whatever, and the stride skill is also kind of the stride bonus is also kind of whatever. And then obviously Strider crits and heal guards, stuff like that. Who cares about these? Those are just triggers. And then for the strides, this dude is honestly not that good. He just reported for a reason. The Aristotle. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, it is the third or more battle of that turn. CB1 to retire one of your points rear guards. So CB1 to right back row. This card's honestly just like a worse version of the on hits, like the Lost Age and the Mahmood, where it's just on hit, retire, on hit, block deck. This card's just worse than that. You still might play like a 2-of just to fill in slots, but I think in an optimal G-Zone you don't play any of this card, to be honest. I think in an optimal G-Zone you just play like 4 Lambros, like 4 Title Board. But that's really expensive, so most lists will see this card like some amount of cost just because this card is only a triple rare. Speaking of the GRs, here's the Title Board Dragon. So stride, and then on hit, if it's the 3rd battle of that turn or more, draw a card and call a card from your hand. Although this skill doesn't say optional, the call is actually optional. You don't have to call it. You can just draw a card and not call it if you don't want to. Which is pretty nice because at worst this card just reads on hit, draw a card, which is like fine for a first stride, I guess. But this thing can let you enable extra multi attacks if it's, and then with stuff like Algos and stuff, it would be your 4th battle, so it could use its skill to get bigger and stuff like that. So pretty good first stride. I think this card's actually really nice. Obviously I don't have any copies of it, but in theory, this card seems pretty good, and the decks I've played, people I play against, which actually isn't that much. This card seems like it's pretty good as well. So yeah. And finally, the main finisher of the deck and like your main like go-to stride afterwards is the Lambros. So this goes GB2 when this unit attacks a Vanguard if it's the 4th battle of that turn or more. G Persona flip, so flip a copy of itself to stand 2 rears and give them 5k power. So you can stand a column if you need to. You can stand 2 rears in the front. This deck is very lethal when your opponent's at 5. This deck is absolute great when you're killing your opponent from 5. It can kill from 4 as well, but yeah, it's definitely not a bad card by any means. It obviously got nerfed, but it's definitely not bad by any means. Definitely still a very playable stride. Definitely still a very playable card. Yeah, pretty good. Definitely once you have the GB2, it's definitely your go-to stride after that. So usually the next game plan I see is you go to Title Pool once, and then you just keep going to Lambros after that. So this card's probably a card you do want 4 copies of if you can get your hands on that many. So yeah. Overall thoughts, this deck looks okay, looks playable, but again, I think the big problem with this deck is it looks very prone to getting just all their stuff retired, just because you basically need a full board every turn to do stuff, because you need to have like a Dia, a Battle, or something like that in the back row, in the column swing. You need a booster on the other side, and your opponent just kills both those back row cards, you're kind of screwed, so you have to commit again on the following turn. So yeah, definitely looks playable, but again very prone to removal, but definitely a very lethal kill from from 5 if your opponent just is at 5 and doesn't kill down. So yeah. And finally we have Bermuda. Yeah, I'll go to store, nothing relevant. They got Countercharge PG, Stride Fodder. The Shizuku is pretty good for the Harmony deck, so it's a not duo deck. There's this skill, when this unit becomes Harmony, so if you don't know what Harmony is, when a card with Harmony is placed in the same column as another card with Harmony, they are both in Harmony. Even if one of the cards leave the build, they are still in that state. And so this card's skill is GB1. Obviously, it has Harmony as a part of its skill, so it can actually proc the 2 music notes with Harmony. And then skill is what GB1 per turn when this unit becomes in Harmony. So basically, when you put something in front of it or behind it that also has Harmony, you check out 5, add grade 3 or higher from top of your deck to your hand. So yeah, pretty nice for the deck. That is, lets you grab Stride Fodder, which is basically what it's there for. So yeah, definitely not bad. Grade 2, we have the Spica. So her skill is GB1 when this unit attacks Vanguard. If it's boosted, CB1 to bounce a card other than itself to your hand, and then call a card from your hand and it gets plus 3k power. So multi attack, definitely a pretty good card. Gives you extra multi attacks to extend your multi attacks. Definitely a card that the Harmony deck, or I guess it'd be the Loris deck, would play at like a 4 of, and even the duo deck might play this card at like a 1 to 2 of. That deck just to have an extra finisher in there. They also got the Amelia. So this card is a GB1 with bounce 10 CB1 to draw a card, but more importantly, this card has resist. So that's pretty nice. Resist intercepts are never bad. Not duo name, so you can't put her in duos as well, but in the Loris deck and any other future decks going forward, this deck card will probably see some amount of play. And then these other cards are pretty whatever, so we'll pass them. Finally, grade 3s. I honestly don't think the Mirror cards are that good, but I'll go over them anyways, I guess. The Duo's Eternal Sister Mirror, the tripper is a 11 break 4, then about this unit attack Vanguard. CB1 ditch 3 to ride a Duo True Sister, so that's the break ride from back in set 17 in the Silverthorn set. You ride that card from your solo stand, draw 2 cards, and add this card to your hand. and then Soul Blast 1, Counter Blast 1 to bounce a card and dupe it. So that's its other skill. So gives you like a finisher, but you have to go all in on mirrors, which means you're not playing Nemuel and Victoria, which just isn't very good. So it's its own standalone deck, but that deck probably isn't very good. I haven't seen anyone play it yet, and that's probably for good reason because it isn't good. Also pretty expensive. You need the Mirror Stride. So yeah. And the other card is the Miracle Voice Loris. So her skill is she has Harmony and then GB2. When this unit becomes in Harmony until end of turn, the 2 units get plus 5k, and she gets a critical. So she basically just get crit. And then on Stride CB1, bounce a card, and if you return, draw a card, and then on ride plus 3k. So it's whatever, it's cool. Stride bonus is just draw one, which is pretty nice, and you can proc any of your on bounce effects. So definitely not terrible. And then obviously Strider crits. This crit, there actually is a trigger here that's worth noticing, is the duo crit. The something Joker, I think is her name. The duo love Joker Chulam. So her skill is when your other rears return to your hand, if your Vanguard is a duo, you can CB1 to put her back into the deck to search your deck for a card with the same name as the thing you bounced. So I'll just give you an example how this card would work. If let's just say you're on Nemuel, the one that the Legion that adds 2. So let's say that you dupe 1 PG, you dupe the 1 PG while it goes on the board. Nemuel dupes you 2 more, so you're at 3 PGs in hand now, and then you use her skill CB1 for back into the deck, and you dupe the last PG to your hand. So this card in tandem with Nemuel is get a full playset of a card to your hand, whether it be PGs, intercepts, or whatever. So definitely worth experimenting with, but the fact that it's red 0 and it's a crit is kind of to me, but I think it's worth looking at least worth trying. And then finally the strides, we have the triple slide, the Somni, the Fluffy Ribbon Somni. So her skill is on hit, bounce a card to your hand, and then call a card from your hand and get that unit plus 3k. So it lets you scale kind of, and then processing your bounce skills and its multi attack. So it's pretty good. That's definitely a stride that every fish deck will be playing. Next up, we have the Olivia, which is also relatively generic. So her skill is on attack, CB1, a G Persona flip, so I'll copy this up unfortunately. So yeah, you do need at least 2 of this card to work. To bounce any number of rear guards to your hand, if you return 3 or more, any number of rears with different names, you have to bounce different cards. All of them have to be different. If you return 3 or more, you call a card one each to your front and your back row, so you can reset a column, and then she gets a critical. So that's okay. Gives the fish decks that would end the game at 5, which is definitely not bad. So yeah. And finally, we have the Mirror Stride. Stride, once per turn, if your heart is a mirror, you can flip anything, then return one of your dual regards to your hand. After that, add a mirror from your deck to your hand, and if your G-Zone has a face-up copy of himself, add another one to your hand. So you don't have to flip herself, but to get the maximum, you have to flip a copy of herself. So whatever. Biggest downside is if you're playing her, you're playing a full mirror deck, which is not that good. So yeah. So overall, what do I think about Bermuda? I think the Loris deck is playable. I think Duo's got some nice additions, mainly the Somni. Somni pretty nice. The crit is worth experimenting with, I think. Anything else for Duo? Spica might be like a 1 or 2 of in that deck, and you might play Stride Fodder in the deck now. So yeah. And since the OTT event literally just came out like an hour ago, I guess I'll go over that as well, just cause. You can see I don't have any of the cards yet. Oh yeah, just in case you're wondering, the event got nerfed. You have less drops now. The structure got changed slightly, changed a little bit as well. But I don't want to go over that here, just cause it's not, relevant to this video. But yeah, they got Takemu Kazuchi as a stride, CB2, G Persona flip. Checked out 4, add 2 for the rest of the bottom. It's okay. I don't know why it's a GR, but I guess that's because everything else sucks in this deck. So yeah. And they have the Kieran. I think it's on hit. Checked out 2. Add a card from among them. Put the other one to the bottom. It's okay. It's triple rare at least. Not easy to get. Susano. You have 2 or more cards in hand plus IK plus a crit for GB2. And then on stride CB1. Checked out 2. Add a card from among them to your hand. Put the other one to the bottom. So it's okay. This card's okay. And then we got the Oruhime, the CEO Amaterasu Legion. So her skill is I think if you're in Legion, you can CB1, check that card. If it's a card, and declare a name. If it's the declared name, add that card to your hand. Soul charge 2, counter charge 2, and then you draw a card. I think or something like that. I don't remember the full name of this card, full effect of this card, but it's something like that. And then her other skills on plate: Soul Blast 1, Counter Blast 1 to call a. It's like Battle Deity Susanoo was any on the card, but this is the Amaterasu 12k attacker. That's from all the way back in set 8. So, nice buff to the card, I guess, that you can call 12k attacker with this. So yeah, it's okay, it's okay. And then grade 2s, nothing of relevance I can see. Grade 1s, Countercharge PG, Stride Fighter, that's it, I think. I can't read this, don't know, don't care, doesn't look very good. Soul Charge 1, Countercharge 1, doesn't look bad. Yeah, Stride Fighter, and then Countercharge PG, and yeah. So, not much about OTT. I don't set this claim to be good at all whatsoever. So, yeah. So, overall thoughts about this, OTT sucks. Let's just start with that. Neonectar is playable, probably. It's playable to some degree, it's definitely not terrible. Aquaforce is probably playable. And Bermuda is playable. So yeah, overall, I think the set is honestly kind of whatever. If you're not particularly interested in any of these claims, I definitely say hoard all your gems with the following set. The set is honestly not worth the investment, in my opinion. Nothing meta breaking here. If you open set 1, you can just play the cross for another month if that's all you care about. So if you care about winning, just keep playing the cross. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Tell me what you guys think about G Set 2 and the OTT clan event, the cards, all that good stuff down below in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.